better minds. Two people who I've watched and learned from when it comes to covering politics. Journalist, political analyst, insider extraordinaire of redoubtable acclaim, Mark Halperin, and NewsNation correspondent-at-large, Geraldo Rivera. Geraldo,
Hey.
I have you here because I always want to hear where your head's at. Mark, I have you here because I've been watching your stuff. Congrats on the new projects. Wish they weren't with Megyn Kelly, but we'll leave that for another day. But you have been bothered by this because you believe that the media is missing what matters in this stuff and in the new book by Tapper and Thompson. What do you think matters here? And what did I get wrong, by the way, Mark?
Well, I agreed with almost everything you said, including your dad was a genius. I disagree that the press loves to criticize itself. This is the biggest scandal in American media history, and there's no accountability. If people want to blame Joe Biden or blame the Democrats like Chuck Schumer, who didn't call Joe Biden out, the press's failure on this was manifest. You called out what your own eyes could see. The American people saw it, and the coverage was deny, deny, deny. And the reason it matters, Chris, is because we need to have credibility. If you want Donald Trump held accountable and scrutinized and have the public interest served, the press has to have accountability and credibility to criticize them. And what they did to cover up Joe Biden's loss of mental acuity was a scandal that they have not owned up to one bit.
You know, look, I can't disagree because he's too smart, Geraldo, but, you know, one of Mark's points is that Tapper was sitting there. The other guy, I don't know who wrote the book with him, but Jake, obviously, I know very well, and I would consider him the real deal. But the criticism is you were sitting there while all this was going, and now you're prepared. You know, now you're pretending that you're exposing it. Do you really believe that there was something hidden about Biden's situation, Geraldo?
Well, first of all, I love seeing your dad, and I remembered the nights we spent after I interviewed him many times on my Rivera Live show on CNBC. We go to Ellie's Bar on 79th Street and just to hang out. It was great talking to him. I didn't notice any slipping of mental acuity. He just was charming, and he was almost naive about bar life. So it was wonderful, wonderful seeing him. You know, listen, I'm a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with a bad memory, just like Joe Biden. So I do have tremendous compassion for him. Mark condemns the media writ large, and I guess there's some truth and traction in that. But what does it matter? I just can't. And I'm sorry, and I understand how skeptical you are, Chris, of conspiracies. But I can't believe that the guy didn't have a rectal exam. You think that the president of the United States has the best health care of anyone on earth, and how do they miss prostate cancer? I lost my father-in-law to prostate cancer after a 7-year battle. It was terrible. But the one thing you knew is you took a PSA test or a rectal exam. You know, I can't understand why they didn't do that. Because it's so bad that they didn't do it, you're suspicious of what really happened. I believe, just from my point of view, I'm not a politician. I'm a Republican. Is my registration. I can't believe that Biden was really running the country for the last year. It just seems to me that the aides and Dr. Jill Biden who propped him up, and it was like. Weekend at Bernie's. I think that it matters. I think that counts.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.